it didn't really happen right away, but not saying yes to doing my next 9 to 5 was a deeply healing experience for me. As a straight A student, I think I always liked to play the good student, but I had an inner rebel that never got a chance. But she's here now, dropping an F-bomb on her podcast and helping everyone from sex therapists to video creators building their online businesses, and I'm just enjoying every second of it. So knowing that making this choice was a healing, was absolutely by, like, people like to talk about becoming more of who you are. It's through making these decisions that are based off of choices for yourself over and over again, and building self-trust within yourself over and over again. And this particular choice of going, I've been laid off, I'm moving on, I'm not staying in the same place, I'm going to build something that's my own. That was absolutely my intuition finally saying, thank you. This is what we've been wanting for you for so long. And that was me becoming more who I am. And we get to do that every day. Being limitless is knowing your success and your growth are built on a radical belief in yourself. Limitless is honoring your purpose, your health, and impact above all else. Limitless is never playing small, because the more alive you feel in your life, the more growth and success you attract. Hi, my name is Jamie Ratermann, and I am a holistic business coach, meaning I am just as invested in growing your health as I am in growing your wealth. With 11 plus years in brand and social media marketing, I help rebellious entrepreneurs master marketing, embody leadership, and say fuck it to the hustle. This show is here to encourage you to become more radically aware of your self-imposed limits, to break free of your shoulds, and to expand your brand into a movement led by you. Hi, all lovelies. Welcome to another episode of the Limitless Podcast. I am recording this episode on my birthday week. I officially am the 34. So in general, I always feel extra reflective on my birthday weeks. I feel like it's either my birthday week and like New Year's. I'm journaling a lot. I'm thinking about the last couple months and thinking about what I want this next year to be. And in general, I shared a lot on Instagram this week about kind of what I saw my 33rd year being, but it came up in my mind of like how I really do like to look at different phases of my life, different milestones, and how my identity has shifted a lot. So today's episode, I'm excited to share, but I'm also a little bit scared. I'm going to be completely upfront because I'm sharing a piece of my story that I haven't really talked about, or to be honest with you, I haven't really told anybody about outside of close friends. So being able to know that, like, I'm kind of making a bit of a leap today, and I want you to be a part of it because it's time. So let's dive in. I've been living a bit of a lie. Not really, but lately I've been feeling called to share a part of this story because in the past I decided that I wasn't ready, and I want to encourage you all, because I know that there's a lot of talk about vulnerability online, that you get to decide when you want to share your stories. But I share a lot on Limitless about empowering yourself with your purpose, how to have this more fulfilling life through your business, and how you decide to live your day to day when you hold the keys to how do you want to attract your wealth and be a part of that. This mission, this message has stemmed from many things, but in particular, one big part is how I left the corporate world. I was laid off. Now, this is not shameful at all. You can throw a stone in New York City and hit another person who's been laid off. But the story behind my layoff really put a few things into perspective for me, that the decisions that followed were absolutely stemmed from that experience. So let me tell you my story. When I was the head of social media for a large travel brand, I busted my ass for 4 years. I was working weekends. I would go out and be able to like meet other brands. Like I felt like my nights were filled with meeting friends, but also if it turned out someone worked for another brand that I thought would be a good partnership, it was like work was never off my mind. I was feeling so loyal and so like a team player. I had this big loyalty to this company. A lot of how I felt in school and all the previous brands I was bringing into what felt like one of the bigger jobs that I'd ever gotten. Right. I had normal conversations that you now see on the internet. where people are telling you, ask for your worth. I asked for my worth all the time. I was showing up to my performance reviews with documents in hand of every single success I had for the year, every single meeting and conversation I built. I was the data and report chick. I loved it. And I would and even now, like every week within my business, I still do a similar thing. But every week when I was in corporate, I would be like, what did I do this week that worked? Whose problems did I fix? I was wanting to climb that corporate ladder so much. I networked, and in particular, some of the biggest things that I not only hit goals, I 3x goals that were ever given to me. Go figure. If I'm working that much, I hope that I would be able to 3x some goals. But I, for the most part, was a one-person team. I got an intern from time to time, but I was overworked, clearly. Even now, when I look back on my last year in corporate, I don't think I could have done any better. There's no way I could have done more, because I felt like I was pouring everything I possibly could into it. I would come in early so that I could have morning focus where no one interrupted me. I was usually in at least 3 meetings a day between the marketing team, the content team, and the sales team. I would be even too. I was the engineer's favorite and worst nightmare when I was like, you know what, like this usability on the site could be fixed. Like I would be over there showing them things and how and what I saw that could enhance the sales experience. Mostly because if the site worked, then my sales numbers related to social worked. That was me. I mentored a few interns, and at the time was tweet DMing a lot of brands. Like it was a consistent thing. But all the hard work didn't really do much. I had changed managers 3 times in 2 years. There was always a shift in who was running the business, especially because it was under a larger travel brand. And then like in general, there was many brands underneath that umbrella. So they would just kept shifting who my manager was, which was difficult, and even with that, I always came with this reputation of being a hard worker, adaptable, someone who in general was a team player in a lot of ways. That preceded me. Like I would meet my new manager, like, so this is what I've heard about you. And it was always lovely to hear these compliments, right? In particular, though, the new director of the company that was in my last year, in my first couple of months of meeting him, directly told me that he didn't think social media did much, which, as I say this right now, feels heavy. Like even feels heavy on my heart for the fact that I just was like, oh, you've got to be kidding. Like I work 70 hours and I've got this. I tried to prove to this man how wrong he was. I would do what I thought, or I would do what he thought I should do, even though it made absolutely no damn sense. I'm being honest with you. Like it was like, just put up a couple of these articles so that we get a whole bunch of sales. And like, you don't even have to put a caption with it. You don't even have, it was like, that didn't make sense. I would do what he asked, and then I would do what I knew to work. I would do A/B tests left and right, and I would literally have reports. I'd have presentations. I'm like, okay, based off of the strategy that you gave me, this is our interactions. Based off the strategy that I would like to implement and continue to implement, this is the kind of interactions we get. I would have charts on charts. Nothing changed. I'd show an increase in sales and numbers. Nothing would change. I'd ask my manager for a raise, to which she felt I deserved, but she would not go to bat for me with that director. She was scared of him. Oof, just talking about this. There's that proving energy I've talked to you all about on the podcast before is absolutely a previous version of me that I'm so happy I've been able to abandon and release, but I can still remember it. Can you tell? Either way, I decided to put together a gift guide to help the business make this larger sum of money during the holidays, which, for any of you who don't know this, when you're doing this for a bigger business and a bigger company, it's a big task. So you end up talking with PR agencies and brands. You have to have a timeline of how long you can hold on to a product, especially if they're those larger ticket products. For the photo shoot, you need to get approval sometimes from the brand of exactly how it looks. And then, of course, aside from that, it's the social campaign that goes along with it. So there's the gift guide, and then there's all of the social posts that go with it. And then there's how the email interacts with it, and how in general, like, you are going to get that whole visibility. It is at least a 3-month planning session. It is a lot. It's so many moving parts. So after putting this together 4 months especially with the content team really helping me out there, you want to guess which day they decided to lay me off? God, it's a in early November, we were in the midst of this photo shoot, and I had an impromptu meeting with my manager. Now, I want to tell you that I thought nothing of this impromptu meeting, not even a little bit. And like I said, I got it in early that morning. We had a post that was going, bringing in really strong traffic numbers. I had a feeling that the manager wanted to talk about what we could do to capitalize on that and turn them into sales. Like I was just like, if she's like, interrupting this thing that she knows I've been working on for months, it must be about some type of like selling potential. It must be about this. But then I walked into this conference room and HR was on the screen. Like, oh God, even as I share this, my heart is still pumping a little more, like talking about it now. So essentially, I got this message that I was laid off, and they even told me that I didn't have to come back, and there was severance, all of the things. Now I'm telling you, I did come back, hold up in a conference room for a day or two so that I could pull some of my work and files, because I had worked so hard and I wanted those things. But oh my gosh, can I tell you the shell shock that came from being delivered this message and being delivered that message on that day. Like, I was angry. I felt abandoned. I felt there was something wrong with me. I thought that I had been living like in a delusional place where I thought I was a key member of a team and they didn't give a shit about me. It was such a gut-wrenching feeling to have to sit through that when it was part of something, such an exciting day for me, of something that I had been putting together for so long. So clearly I felt abandoned. I worked so hard for so long without rest. I was just a number. Or in some ways, when I think about the story, I was probably an annoyance to that director who didn't like social, and I kept proving wrong over and over again in meetings so that he would see me as a leader. He would know that I was bringing in sales for the business, but it didn't matter. So, they could justify this loss, I guess, in some ways. But you know what? This still kind of unnerves me. You want to get this? Even as I was trying to like collect myself, clearly I didn't want to walk out of that conference room like crying and like feeling a certain way. I remember that manager of mine who, rarely would back me up with this director, even though she agreed with me, and rarely would like go to bat for me. I was just sitting there needing space, and she's like, "Can I have a hug?" like she wanted a hug when I got laid off. Sorry. Again, this moment was like so shell shocking. I can remember it almost to a T. And I think that's a lot to say about how our emotions hold so many memories. I wanted to share this story in depth, not just because, to be honest with you, preparing for this episode was its own form of therapy. And I'm hoping even sharing this story will be it for me, but to allow you to see me and what fueled me for what came next. So while I feel differently now, back then I felt like I was like getting expelled from school. Thankfully, though, on my way out, I ran into the right person. Shout out to Courtney from sales. If you ever listen to this episode, you know who you are, because she could see that I was distraught. We had done brand partnerships and deals. In particular, we had worked with like bigger, like we worked with Showtime previously. So her and I were friends before, of course. And she immediately took me out for a late lunch in the West Village, where she filled me in on how frequent layoffs happen and how they don't mean a damn thing about me. And she was like she was listing off all the things she knew she did, and she wasn't even on my brand or team. She goes, "People love you. They know you for these reasons. You're going to be fine." Like, it was like this whole idea. Like, she goes, I think she told me she got laid off 3 times. And she was just, it was like this wonderful moment of mentorship that I didn't know was going to happen. Of course, it was over wine on the company card because, again, she was on the sales team. She had the budget to take me out, which was lovely. But it just, knowing that she was ready to drop everything and make sure I knew that this didn't mean anything, even if I didn't believe her at that moment. That particular experience of just having that community when this struggle hit me so hard is something I realize is such a part of my coaching now. It is such a part of my identity, because I recognize that if I can support somebody in that moment, that it ripples out to everything else they do after. And it's, again, shout out to Courtney for how beautiful that experience was for me. But within that, you are never alone in your experience. There is always people who can relate to you. Now, this can be, you can use this in its own way when you're ready to share some of those hard moments online, because it will be a wonderful experience with your community. But it's also being able to know having a coach who's been through it is one of the best ways for you to learn, for you to feel seen, heard. And for me, I love that when I can understand someone's experience, because I know how to activate them to choose differently so that the next stage is even better. So while, again, this story still kind of hits me deep, I had that community almost immediately for what I wanted to do next. Now, clearly in my last year of corporate, I lost anything resembling a fulfilling life. I can laugh about it now. Worked consumed 70+% of my week because I had been told working hard is the only way to get places, to make more money, to achieve. Even too, I remember there was more than one time where I'd come home just 8:30 at night and crying, and Fred would just look at me. He's like, "New job, just go get a new job." Like he would just stop trying to work so hard for these people who don't appreciate you. It was a lot. It was a lot. Either way, within the 2 months after being laid off, I was offered jobs. I was offered jobs for big food brands, a publishing house, and one kind of boutique fashion company that I was actually really excited about. But what was interesting is that because I'd had, in my opinion, a very toxic experience with those last few years in corporate, I could see similarities in the environments that were offering me jobs. The pay was a little higher, but they still had these high goals, long hours that seemed to be the norm. And I asked, is there a team? And they're like, no, maybe. They couldn't guarantee that I wasn't going to be a one-person team for very long. So there was one company in particular that actually had me waiting and sitting with another marketing manager who was having a particularly hard day. So while I sat waiting for the second round interview, I watched the person have a mini meltdown and feeling like she was completely burnt out. So I was just sitting there going this probably wasn't a good idea to have me sit there. But within this is where this is where I took a risk for and it began. This is where my entrepreneurship began for me. I said no to 3 jobs, 3 opportunities that would have been safe, secure, all of the above. And I chose to take my first contract job for an author and a speaker. There was a mini freak out when I sent that last no email to those jobs. I was simultaneously dancing, but also wanting to bury my face in a pillow. But I did it. I went through it. I still remember even Fred giving me a look so what is this thing you're doing? Fully believing in it, but he hadn't seen it before. And I was I'm going to try this thing. I'm going to do it. And knowing that I was taking this risk that really had a lot to do with me driving the ship versus letting the company or somebody I went with to drive where I was going next. So I decided to choose my own environment instead of another, in my opinion, toxic corporate environment. So it was helpful, even if I had been leaving a job that I was so loyal to at first. this is also a part of my journey where I was believing in me and not just the brands I was working for. So I hated on that day that I was laid off, feeling like a freaking number. Why did I say freaking? Fucking number. Like I I hated that I had just poured so much of my time and energy into something, and they were just like, laid off, even though you've hit all these goals and you've brought in all these sales numbers, and we're just going to lay you off. Like it absolutely killed me. Like, cause I felt that, tried and true thing with corporate where like, I'm a part of a family and I wasn't like, or either like it absolutely hurt. But having been, blocked by that previous director who didn't appreciate social fueled me to realize that I am actually fucking brilliant about this stuff. I saw every which way to think about platforms, the mindset of a follower versus a customer, and how content absolutely creates true community. This is what I was able to get from having to, come in with those reports, believe in myself, be able to really think about how it all worked in those strategies. That part of it allowed me to go like, wait, I'm great at this. I know what I'm doing. And I love the research side of this just as much as the doing and the content and the creating side of this. So saying yes to entrepreneurship gave me this breathing room to activate that side of me that I simply don't feel that I could have had in a different setting. But I also attract clients who appreciate it. Like, the difference between the early version of me and the version of me now, if someone tells me that they don't believe in social, and I'm like, well, I don't know why you're on a call with me if that's how you feel. Like I don't have to have that. I don't have to prove anything anymore. And that freedom is a part of it. I'm appreciated by the people who hire me because they know what I'm about. And I think that at least that part of my story is a big deal. It's absolutely a big deal. But finally, it didn't really happen right away, but not saying yes to doing my next 9 to 5 was a deeply healing experience for me. As a straight A student, I think I always liked to play the good student, but I had an inner rebel that never got a chance. But she's here now, dropping an F-bomb on her podcast and helping everyone from sex therapists to video creators building their online businesses, and I'm just enjoying every second of it. So knowing that making this choice was a healing, was absolutely by, like, people like to talk about becoming more of who you are. It's through making these decisions that are based off of choices for yourself over and over again, and building self-trust within yourself over and over again. And this particular choice of going, I've been laid off, I'm moving on, I'm not staying in the same place, I'm going to build something that's my own. That was absolutely my intuition finally saying, thank you. This is what we've been wanting for you for so long. And that was me becoming more who I am. And we get to do that every day. So without entrepreneurship, I wouldn't have been able to explore this deep and true purpose for myself that led to becoming health coach certified. So I could mend the wounds of the hustle and come out here to share that with you. All of the way in which I experienced that toxic environment and left and built a business and all of these things informs who I am as a coach now, informs who I am in helping someone else, informs when I'm feeling lower and going like, wait, but I felt this way before, I can choose differently. All of these things inform me to be better now. So being able to have this community and give that community to realize that risk is a part of this, but it is so freaking rewarding, and being able to believe in myself and my true brilliance within this, and also that final opportunity to heal. I'm glad I was laid off. I'm glad that happened. I get to say this, hindsight's always 20/20. I get to say this now. But without that, I may not have ever left that 9 to 5. I may have needed that little kick. So today was definitely a harder share because the layoff was a true milestone in what drives me today. But I know that many are being laid off for other reasons now. That we know that we see it all the time on TikTok and Instagram of the people who are being laid off. But please know that layoffs mean nothing about your character. And depending on how your company handles it, it's only a representation of, revenue numbers, or if they see the people who work for them as just a number as well. So I want you to come to a crossroads like this. I want to encourage you instead to see it as an opportunity for choice. You have the choice to bet on yourself. You have the choice to walk into your next job with your eyes wide open, hopefully with a better salary and benefits, but know that whenever you have these things that can affect you like this, you have choice, you have options. I promise. If any of this resonated with you, please take a screenshot of this episode and share it online with your favorite part. I would love for you to tag me at Jamie Ratermann, at JamieRatermann. In general, I dream that this episode allows anyone who's felt this way or in a crossroads or been laid off to know that it is normal. Kind of like passing it on to Courtney, who let me know that this is absolutely okay, and to know that you have a community that can support you so that you can jump into your next venture. Until next time, live a little more limitless.